I'm expecting my first child in February, and as the first grandchild on both sides, the excitement in our families is through the roof. Everyone's thrilled about the baby, and while it's heartwarming, it's also led to some awkward situations, like the one I'm about to share. My dad's girlfriend, Lena, not her real name, and I have an okay relationship. We're not particularly close, but we get along well enough. Lena and I are very different people. She has a tendency to be a bit pushy at times, and we don't share many common interests. One of the biggest differences between us is how we feel about influencer culture. Lena loves it. She's constantly sharing posts, stories, and videos from her favorite influencers. I, on the other hand, can't stand it. Ever since I announced my pregnancy, Lena has been sending me Instagram posts from random influencers sharing their thoughts on childbirth, motherhood, and everything in between. I usually just smile and nod, even though it's not really my thing. A few months ago, one of her favorite influencers gave birth and posted a video documenting the entire experience. It was a cutesy, overly edited clip with country music playing in the background, showing her family watching the birth from outside the delivery room. Lena sent me the video, and I remember telling her, very clearly, that I'd never do something like that. Fast forward to Christmas. My husband and I joined the rest of my family at my cousin's house for the celebrations. When it was time to exchange gifts, Lena handed me an envelope. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I thanked her and opened it. Inside was a business card for a videographer. Lena smiled and announced that she was hiring him to film the birth of my baby. I was stunned. I couldn't believe she'd gone that far, especially since I'd been clear about my boundaries. The idea of having someone with a camera capturing such an intimate and vulnerable moment made me incredibly uncomfortable. I've also told everyone, including Lena, that I don't want anyone but my husband in the hospital with me when I give birth. Still, I didn't want to embarrass her in front of everyone, so I forced a smile and thanked her for the gesture. But as the shock wore off, I knew I couldn't just let it slide. I needed to address it before things got out of hand. The next day, my husband and I had lunch with Lena and my dad. I took the opportunity to bring up the gift. I thanked her again for thinking of me, but explained that I didn't feel comfortable with the idea of a videographer being present during such a personal experience. I told her that she didn't need to get me anything else for Christmas, but I would really appreciate it if she didn't go through with hiring him. Unfortunately, the conversation didn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped. Lena was visibly upset and started crying. She said she couldn't understand why I'd turned down the chance to create such a beautiful memento of my child's birth. She genuinely seemed hurt, but I stood my ground and told her that I found the idea invasive and uncomfortable. I also reminded her that this wasn't the first time I'd expressed my feelings about not wanting to be filmed during labor. That's when my dad stepped in. Instead of supporting me, he sided with Lena. He told me I was being rude for rejecting her gift and said he was very disappointed in me. I was taken aback. I hadn't expected him to react so harshly, especially since I thought I'd been polite in explaining my feelings. Thankfully, my husband was on my side, as was the rest of my family. They all agreed that Lena's gift, while well-intentioned, crossed a line. Still, my dad's reaction has been weighing on me. It's made me question whether I handled the situation the right way or if I should have approached it differently. Now that I've had time to reflect, I still believe I made the right choice by being honest about my feelings. While I understand that Lena probably thought she was doing something thoughtful, it doesn't change the fact that her gift went against my clearly stated boundaries. Giving birth is an incredibly personal and vulnerable experience, and the idea of having a videographer there feels completely inappropriate to me. What's been the hardest part is dealing with my dad's reaction. His disappointment stings, and I wish he could see things from my perspective. But at the same time, I know that trying to please everyone, especially at the expense of my own comfort, isn't the answer. My husband and I have agreed that this is our experience to navigate, and we need to do what feels right for us as a family. For now, I'm focusing on preparing for the arrival of our baby and trying not to let the drama overshadow this exciting time in our lives. While I hope things eventually smooth over with Lena and my dad, I'm standing firm in my decision. Boundaries are important, and this is one I'm not willing to compromise on.
I'm 28, and for the past few months, I've been letting my older sister, Emma, who's 32, borrow my car. Her car broke down, and she couldn't afford to fix it. Since I work from home and don't use my car every day, I figured I'd be nice and let her use it whenever she needed. It felt like the right thing to do, helping out family in a time of need. At first, everything seemed fine. Emma would borrow the car, do whatever she needed to do, and bring it back. But then I started noticing a problem. Every single time she returned it, the gas tank was nearly empty. I'm talking running on fumes empty. I'd give her the car with half a tank, and she'd bring it back with the fuel light blinking. The first couple of times, I didn't say anything. I assumed she might have just forgotten to fill it up. But when it kept happening, I decided to say something. "Hey," I told her, "can you make sure to put some gas in the car next time? It's kind of annoying to always find it empty." She agreed, saying, "Yeah, sure." But despite her promise, nothing changed. Things came to a head last week. Emma had borrowed the car for a few days in a row, and when she finally brought it back, the fuel light was flashing. I couldn't even make it to the gas station without praying I wouldn't run out of gas along the way. That was my breaking point. I called her up and said, "Emma, this isn't okay. You need to refill the gas you use when you borrow the car." Her response left me speechless. She said, "Why should I? It's not my car." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her that was an incredibly selfish thing to say, especially since I was doing her a huge favor by letting her use my car in the first place. "Gas isn't free," I reminded her. "And it's not fair for me to keep dealing with an empty tank because you can't put in a few bucks to refill it." Emma didn't take it well. She got defensive, accusing me of being petty and selfish. "Family is supposed to help each other out," she snapped. Then she hit me with, "I don't ask for much, and this is how you treat me?" Her response left me even more frustrated. I couldn't believe she was trying to guilt me for something so basic. I'm literally letting her use my car for free, and all I asked was for her to refill the gas she used. It's not like I was demanding anything unreasonable. If the roles were reversed, I'd never treat someone else's car that way. After that conversation, I told her point blank. If she couldn't respect the fact that I was doing her a favor, then she couldn't borrow my car anymore. That was it for me. Emma, of course, wasn't happy. She hasn't spoken to me since, and now our mom is involved, which only makes things worse. Mom thinks I should have just let it go because Emma's struggling right now. Meanwhile, my dad took my side, saying I was right to cut her off for being disrespectful and entitled. Now I'm stuck in the middle. On one hand, I feel bad that Emma's upset. She's my sister, and I don't want her to feel abandoned. But on the other hand, I don't think I was wrong. Letting her walk all over me wouldn't have helped either of us, and honestly, I think it's time she learns to take some responsibility. I'm 26, and I was in a 2-year relationship with my girlfriend Sarah, who's 25. Things were going well between us. At least I thought they were. Until something happened that completely changed the way I saw her. A few days ago, Sarah and one of our mutual friends, Jake, decided it would be funny to prank me. Their idea? To stage a scenario where I caught them hooking up in bed. They went all out to make it convincing. They set up a hidden camera in our bedroom and got undressed. Sarah in her bra and panties and Jake down to his boxers. When I walked in, they were straddling each other, making noises and acting as though I'd walked in on something real. At first I was stunned. I genuinely thought Sarah had betrayed me, and my initial reaction was pure anger and hurt. I confronted them, demanding to know what was going on, but before I could even process it, they started laughing and shouting that it was just a prank. They showed me the hidden camera and the recording to prove it had all been staged. But instead of feeling relieved, I felt completely blindsided. The whole thing didn't sit right with me, and as much as they tried to convince me it was all harmless fun, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The more I thought about it, the more upset I became. It wasn't just the prank itself. It was the lengths they went to in order to make it believable. Seeing Sarah and Jake undressed in such an intimate scenario felt like a violation of the trust one had in both of them. Even though I knew it wasn't real, the imagery stuck with me, and it hurt in a way I didn't expect. I told Sarah I couldn't be in a relationship with someone who thought this kind of prank was okay. To me, it wasn't funny or harmless. It crossed a line that made me question how much she respected me and our relationship. I ended things on the spot. Sarah was devastated, pleading with me to reconsider, but my mind was made up. What made it harder was the reaction from our friends. Instead of understanding where I was coming from, many of them said I was overreacting. They told me I should have laughed it off and moved on, insisting it was just a joke. But I couldn't see it that way. To me, the prank wasn't just a joke. It was a breach of trust that I couldn't ignore. After the breakup, things only got messier. Sarah posted about the situation online, trying to defend herself and explain her side of the story. She sent me a link to her post, urging me to watch the video they'd recorded as proof that the whole thing was planned and harmless. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. The issue wasn't whether or not it was staged. I already knew it was. What upset me was the blatant disregard for my feelings and the lack of respect for our relationship. The fallout didn't stop there. Jake, the mutual friend who was part of the prank, turned on me too. He accused me of overreacting and making a big deal out of nothing. I told him exactly how I felt, told them both to leave me alone, and eventually blocked their numbers to stop the constant arguments. Some of our friends started to take my side after reading comments online about how inappropriate the prank was. They realized that staging something so intimate as a joke wasn't just disrespectful, it was downright cruel. But others still thought I should have just brushed it off and forgiven Sarah. Their mixed reactions left me questioning my decision, but deep down I knew I'd done what was best for me. As things settled, I started to reflect on the whole situation. I couldn't help but feel disappointed, not just in Sarah and Jake, but in some of the friends who kept downplaying how much the prank affected me. It wasn't just about the act itself. It was about the trust and respect that seemed to be completely ignored. For 2 years I believed Sarah valued our relationship, but this prank made me question how well I really knew her. I've made peace with my decision to end things. No relationship can thrive without mutual respect, and staying with Sarah after something like this would have felt like I was ignoring my own boundaries. As for Jake, I've realized that a real friend wouldn't have been part of something so hurtful. The silver lining is that some of my friends eventually came around and supported me, seeing the prank for what it truly was, an insensitive and unnecessary breach of trust. Their understanding has helped me move forward, and I'm focusing on surrounding myself with people who genuinely respect me and my values. In the end, I'm choosing to prioritize my own well-being. The breakup might have been messy, but it was the right choice. I deserve a relationship built on trust and consideration, and I won't settle for anything less.